All right, let's jump right in. We're going to look at this really powerful, simple story. It's all about what can grow, from the hardest ground, and how just sticking with it can create something amazing, even when it feels like all hope is lost. The whole thing really kicks off with this one simple idea: hope in his heart. And that's not just some nice, fluffy feeling, right? It's the engine. It's the thing that drives this entire story forward. And we're going to see how that plays out. So, let's meet the man at the center of all this, a farmer named Ravi. And he's a humble guy. His character isn't about big speeches or anything like that. It's all about what he does, day in and day out. Just quiet, consistent work, always with that little bit of hope. And this is so important. It's all about the routine. Way before any problems show up, we see his dedication. Waking up before the sun every single morning, that tells you everything you need to know about his discipline and his commitment. But of course, a story about perseverance wouldn't be much of a story without a challenge, right? And for a farmer like Ravi, that challenge comes in the most basic, elemental way you can imagine. This is where that hope we talked about gets its first real test. And listen to how simple this is. That year, the rain was late. Just a few words, but wow, do they carry a lot of weight. For a farmer, that's not just an inconvenience. That's a massive threat to his livelihood, his future, pretty much everything he's been working for. And then you get this image, the soil cracked under the sun. It just paints such a vivid picture of how bad things are. You can practically feel the heat, right? This is way beyond a small problem. The very ground he depends on is literally breaking apart. So that sets up the big question, doesn't it? What happens when that hope we started with runs smack into a wall of hardship? What gives? Does the hope just shatter? Or does it turn into something else? And here's where we get our answer. Ravi's response: it's not to give up, it's action. So this next part of the story is all about how he decides to face this thing head-on with pure, determined effort. This right here, this is the turning point for the whole story. I mean, think about it. He could have just waited, right? Complained, given up. But he didn't. He chose to do something. He chose to be resilient. And look at what he actually does. For Ravi, hope isn't some abstract idea. It's real. It's tangible. It's the sweat on his face as he works even harder. It's the dirt under his nails from digging a canal, by hand, to bring water from who knows how far away. And I love this detail because it adds this whole other layer, His work wasn't just mechanical, like a robot. It was personal. He was caring for these seeds like they were his own kids. He wasn't just trying to grow plants. He was fighting to nurture life itself. Okay, so after all that struggle, we get to see the result. This is the payoff. This is what happens because Ravi absolutely refused to give up. But it's so important to get this. His success did not happen overnight, not even close. It took so much patience. It was this slow, gradual thing that happened day after day for months. That patience is a huge part of the story. And then there it is, the first little sign of victory. Can you just imagine how that must have felt? After all that backbreaking work, to see those first tiny green shoots poking through that hard, cracked ground? It's the proof, right? The proof that it was all worth it. And from that one little sprout, you get this, the final amazing result. He started with cracked, dead earth. And what he ended up with through his own hard work was a field just full of golden wheat. The transformation is just total. And we're not talking about just a little bit of wheat here. It was one single, massive, bountiful harvest. It really puts a number on his success, It shows you the true scale of what one person can achieve when they just refuse to quit. And his win wasn't just for him. The whole community saw it and recognized it. And that adds another cool layer to the story, right? His hard work ends up being an inspiration for everyone else. So, after going on this whole journey with him, what's the big takeaway? What's the core lesson we can pull from Ravi's incredible story? You can really see the whole story right here. On one side, you've got the challenge, the late rain, the cracked soil, super bleak. And on the other, the outcome, golden wheat, total success. And what's the bridge that connects those two things? It's just one person's relentless effort. And that brings us to the moral of the story. laid out as simply as it gets. It's an idea that's always been true, right? Success isn't just about luck. It's not just about what happens to you. It's what comes from having faith and just putting in the work. So, what can we really learn from Ravi's journey? Well, a few big things. First, hope isn't just something you feel, it's something you do. Second, real change takes time. You gotta have patience. And maybe the biggest one of all is that we're not just victims of our circumstances. Our own effort can literally change our reality. And that really brings us to the final thought I want to leave you with. Ravi's challenge was cracked soil, but we all have our own version of cracked soil, don't we? In our jobs, our relationships, our personal goals. So the big question is, what's the cracked soil in your life that's just waiting for your faith and your effort?